Welcome to sequence number 2. In this sequence, we introduce three poses that are really important building blocks for all the remaining sequences. These poses are tabletop pose, cat pose, and cow pose. I'm going to break them down into nice small steps so you can always come back to this video for reference. We're going to start in a hands and knee position, and I'm going to show you how to get into tabletop pose. In tabletop position, your wrists should be directly below your shoulders, and your knees should be directly below your hips. You should be pushing strongly into your mat, focusing on a point between your shoulder blades, and really lifting that point, pushing that point up towards the sky. Your neck should be in a nice neutral position. You shouldn't be straining it up to see in front of you, and you shouldn't be letting it hang down unsupported. Instead, I want you to try to focus on a point on top of your head and extend that point out nice and long, looking at a point right between your thumbs. Next, I want you to draw attention to your belly button and the position of your lower back. You never want to see a big sway in your back like this. That's an unsupported position that can be dangerous for your spine and cause pain. To avoid this sway back position, focus on your belly button and try to draw your belly button up towards the sky as much as possible. Another way to think about this is you're trying to suck your belly button up towards your spine, like you're trying to make yourself look really skinny, or tucking your tailbone down towards the ground. All three of these motions should make it feel like your abs get nice and tight, and that's exactly what you want. You'll notice that when I tuck my belly button up towards the sky, that my back is now nice and flat, and it has no sway in it. When I'm in my full tabletop position, there should be a straight line from the top of my head all the way to my tailbone. Next, I'm going to show you how to do cat and cow pose, which introduces a little bit of motion into our tabletop pose. From our tabletop position, with our neck in a nice neutral position and our hands pressed firmly into the ground, to get into our cat pose, we first want to let our head drop towards the mat. At the same time, bring your attention to that point between your shoulder blades and push it up even stronger if you can. Tuck your tailbone even further underneath you. To do this, you might squeeze your butt cheeks together and press your hips forward a little bit. You'll notice that when I'm in this position that it might look like I have a pretty round back. This might not be available to you because you've had a surgery that fuses some portions of your spine together, and that's okay. What I want you to do is just focus on pressing through your shoulders and tucking your hips under you. To tuck those hips, really squeeze those butt cheeks together, press your hips forward. You don't need to focus on finding a round back here, only on pushing your shoulders up and tucking your hips under. This is going to be our cat pose. To transition to our cow pose, let's just come back first to our tabletop pose. In this position, our neck is in a neutral position with the top of our head extended out straight. We're looking at a point between our thumbs, and our belly button is tucked up towards our spine. To get into cow, we're going to lift our gaze gently, not enough to strain our neck, just enough to look at a point more in front of us. As we lift our gaze, you want to let your chest drop towards the ground. So kind of release that point that you were pushing up towards the sky and let your chest drop towards the ground. Finally, instead of holding your tailbone tucked, you want to point it back behind you. In combination, it looks like this. Raise your gaze to a point in front of you. Let your chest drop towards the ground and point your tailbone back behind you. To transition between your cat and your cow, first come back to your tabletop. From tabletop, we want to breathe in to raise our gaze, coming into our cow position. Once we're taking in a deep breath, You want to breathe out, pushing into the mat, letting your head drop, raising that point between our shoulder blades as high as we can get, and squeezing our butt cheeks together, pushing our hips forward as far as we can to our cat position. Try to flow between these two motions with your breath. Breathe in to come into cow, raising your gaze, letting your chest drop, and pointing your tailbone back. And breathe out, letting your head drop into cat, pushing your shoulder blades up towards the sky, and squeezing your butt together, pushing your hips forward. You can alternate between these two poses for as long as possible. As long as you would like. This is a really good exercise to wake up those muscles around your shoulder blades after surgery.